the flow. Okay. So this is my presentation. I look at both IKS and multilingualism issue, and specifically the whole presentation will be done in 3 parts. The first part looks at idea of knowledge system, various knowledge systems, and specifically IKS. Second part looks at how IKS survived over the last 2000 years. One reason it survived was it had a lot of excellence in it. And then in spite of colonial and conquerors and effort to destroy it, it survived in pockets, and now there is ample opportunity for us to build it back. The third part, one significant characteristic of IKS is that we are predominantly multilingual society. So I'll look at how this has shaped our culture, our interaction, and also has raised very interesting points about linguistics, growth of knowledge, script, all that, okay? So what do we mean by a knowledge system? Okay. This is not just IKS, any knowledge system. Knowledge system has 2 main features. One is that it's an organized structure and also has a dynamic process in it. And these 2 words are slightly contradictory for those who are already aware, and I'll come to that little later. So what it looks at is generating and representing content, components, classes, or the type of knowledge. So basically it looks at generating knowledge, representing knowledge, components of knowledge, classes of knowledge, types of knowledge that could be domain specific or characterized by domain relevant features as defined by the user or consumer. We'll take up some examples shortly. The other part is there is a reinforcement by a set of logical relationships that connect the content or various components or attributes of this knowledge system. So this is not arbitrary. And these logical relationships have been reinforced over the last 2,000-3,000 years. So they're very strong. Okay. Now there are 2 issues we need to look at. One is that it's a organized structure and a dynamic process. Because it is organized and dynamic, the following is true. It is more closed than open. It is not 100% closed, but it is more closed than open. The more closed a system is, the more organized it is. The more open a system is, the more dynamic it is. So this is an interesting mix of possibility and prevention. Because it is dynamic, changes are possible, yet the changes are slow, sometimes very slow. It gets so irritating that collectively people decide to change, and those are called reforms or rebellion, whatever you call that. This is how a little over 1,000 years of Catholic Christianity, Protestant movement started. Okay. They are also Christians, but they started this breakaway from that, which is saying that breakaway didn't happen suddenly. Over long years of debate, discussion, frustration, anxiety, questioning, all that things have happened. And such things are very common. In our system, it is even more common. Many independent knowledge systems exist and have been more competing than cooperating. This is one serious tragedy of humanity. There are many knowledge systems. Some are lost, some are developing, some have developed and established. Yet in spite of all this, each knowledge system, instead of synthesizing the best in others, has built itself a very strange approach to dominating or suppressing the other, and each knowledge system is trying to be one up on the other. So there is much less cooperation, but more competition of not necessarily the healthy kind. Okay. All knowledge systems are evolved. So it's not that it suddenly happened overnight. They are evolved and they are characterized by behavior of people who use or are dependent on this knowledge system for daily life, seasonal life, lifespan of a humans, lifespan of a civilization, whatever you call it. And there are various categories of people who follow or depend on this. Some are fundamentalists, some are practitioners, some are observers, some are skeptic about this. A large number of them are blind followers. Okay, you cannot ask them to explain why they do a certain thing. They've just been following it for the last few thousand years. What is new today is there is a material aspect which is also influencing the knowledge system, which historically was either the ruling class or the dominant community or trade, whatever. But today, material aspects like oil and foreign exchange, all of you every day are worried what is the price of petrol or diesel, because you get out of the house, you are worried what the price of the petrol or diesel is, because that allows your mobility to reach college, workplace, school, whatever you want. Okay. 50 years back, none of you are bothered about what the petrol price was. In another 20 years, you will not be bothered. But this is the time when you will be bothered about something else after another 20 years. This has been going on for a very long time. Okay. So let's look at some practical examples to get the idea of what we are talking. If you look at healthcare, the dominant systems of medicine practiced in India today, one is Ayurvedic, the other is allopathic. Okay. Allopathic medical knowledge system, Ayurvedic medical knowledge system. If you look at schooling, you have a Gurukula model, the madrasa, the convent, public schooling, all that. If you look at the economic part, no back channel talking, please. If you look at the economic system, you have barter system, which you probably do with your neighbors even now. Commercial banking, post office banking, which gives you 1% higher interest. Islamic banking supposedly doesn't charge interest rate. And you have the historical money lenders who still are there today. Okay. So you will see particularly Ayurvedic and allopathic system. I'm sure many of you have experienced some of these. If you go to an allopathic doctor, he will never recommend any Ayurvedic system for you. He'll say, don't take anything else. If you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, he will say, don't take any allopathic medicine. Nobody tries to synthesize and saying, okay, allopathic system is very good for emergencies, but in the long run, it has more side effects. You take this and after 2 weeks, you change over to Ayurveda. Something like that is synthetic model. Nobody tries. So this is characteristic of all subsystems, whether they're healthcare, economic, education, whatever, which are more dominating, trying to dominate and trying to compete rather than synthesize or cooperate. Okay. Of course, many of these are consolidated or centuries of use, influenced by cultural, socio-economic, political factors, and in recent time, resource and environment factors. For example, 30 years back, nobody was selling sand in India. Whenever people want to build house, they just go take a truck or a bullock cart, go to a nearest riverbed, take sand, come and use it in the house. Today, there are many state governments which actually run because of selling sand. Okay. Similarly, water. Selling water has become one of the most profitable business. And in our traditional culture, selling water is actually a crime. Okay. You cannot refuse water when somebody asks, and selling it is actually a crime. And today it's the most profitable business. Okay. So you can see now certain factors are very closed, rigid, but certain things are very open as a matter of convenience or economic interest. Okay, so this is what is about the system. Okay, knowledge system. So how do we actually understand a knowledge system? We understand by when we understand expressions which are either explicit, implicit, or very subtle during their use. Somebody comes, wishes you, says pranam, or bows down, touches your feet. You don't have to make any statement. You understand what cultural background he or she comes from. Okay. Its characteristic can be seen the way the society handles its economy, education, law and governance, gender and other equalities and inequalities. We have to be very careful here. While we want perfect equality, there has been no society in history of time, including families in our own houses, where all are treated perfectly equal. Even among children, there always is a favorite child for the father and mother, possibly the brightest or possibly the most vulnerable in terms of health or physical deformity, whatever, right? So what we can hope for in a knowledge system is that we achieve as much equality as possible and removing or minimizing the inequality. That's the whole idea of evolution and progress. One can also infer from many socio-cultural and attitudinal aspects of its citizens, their behavior, conduct, and ethos. That will give you an idea what knowledge system they are following. For example, we have a festival called Vana Mahotsav where we worship and revere the trees. No other society other than the indigenous knowledge, tribals, revere the trees. We revere the trees because trees has been part of our life, our well-being. It gives us food. It gives us material for construction of house and other things. It gives us medicinal value. It also gives us economic value. So trees are very central to our knowledge system. Trees are not central to many other knowledge system. I'll come to that. And one of the reasons is the environment in which the knowledge system evolved. Unfortunately, many aspects of knowledge system is linked with religious beliefs in all cases, some very strongly or moderately or even subtle, but slowly this is becoming more objective. So people are becoming maybe less less ritualistic now, unlike in the past where every day was a major ritual. We are becoming less ritualistic. I am not saying we are becoming more spiritual, but that's a different issue. Okay. Now the question arises, if there is so much, which knowledge system is right? We will see that. All knowledge systems have evolved over time, culture, geography, trade, and interaction. Be very clear. Very few knowledge systems have remained in isolation. I will also come to that. These which have predominantly to be found on earth now, some have evolved less, some have evolved more. Some knowledge systems are lost. We have no idea what they were. We only have an idea that they were there. Okay. For example, the classical, we have no idea what the pre-Indus civilization looked like. Even the middle Europe, we have no idea what the Hittite culture looked like. Okay. So there has been some dramatic shifts from one knowledge system to another in the course of nation. For example, Japan. Japan was a conservative Buddhist, Shinto, socio-cultural system, but suddenly changed their science and technology to the Western model in 17th century. And by 19th century, they were, or early, yeah, by early 20th century, middle of 20th century, they were the greatest industrialized nation on earth. Okay. Same has happened in Turkey and more so North and South America. North and South America had only indigenous culture for till about 16th century, till Columbus and his people went there. After that, suddenly they changed from an indigenous population, indigenous system to more of a Western knowledge system. China did that in 1950. Russia has been swinging, going this side and that side. They were strongly Orthodox church system. And then after the revolution, they became Marxist. And then again, the Orthodox church has made a comeback and they are oscillating. Okay. North Korea is different. It's now almost a one person knowledge system. Okay. Many have adapted or reformed. That's the only way to sustain. Otherwise, either you push a outdated knowledge system very rigidly using violence, which you see now in Taliban and in Afghanistan, or you adapt. You adapt to changes, which also we see now the problems we are having in Iran. Okay. It's a tough balance since society changes much slower than many individuals. For example, many individuals have already adapted to a different knowledge system, different lifestyle, different values, but collectively the society has not moved. And one example is sports, where we invented chess, but cricket is, God for us, right? Yeah. We seem to have adapted to cricket very well, even though we are the originators of chess, and we do have, by strange coincidence, both men and women champions among us now. Now, what knowledge systems operate? Large number of knowledge systems operate. Only very isolated societies have maintained their original knowledge system and have little or no interaction with other knowledge systems. You find them in Andaman, you find them in Amazon, you find them in remote areas of India too. Particularly if there are people in Tamil Nadu, they would know that there are two tribes. One is the Todas in Nilgiris, and the other tribes are the Irulas who live with, who eat rats, but they are very comfortable living with snakes. Okay. So they have their own knowledge system evolved over many centuries. What majority of us do is we seem to have working with a blended knowledge system. Basically, our education is Western, our job is Western, but our food, dress, and living style and our religious practices, cultural norms, they all seem to be following Indian. Okay. So today, very few people are living exclusively on one type of knowledge system. I'll come to that. Okay. Now, which knowledge systems exist now? What dominates is the Western knowledge system, WKS. It's predominantly found in Europe, North America, and China. Covers about 50% of the world population. Its other name is modern scientific system. What it relates to is 75% of the current economy. That's the reason why we are today talking to each other over many distances, talking in English, using a internet facility which was invented in the West. That's because modern technology and English is more an economic phenomena. English is not our mother tongue. Really? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, because it's exceedingly dominating economically, we are part of it. The other knowledge system is Arabic knowledge system, predominantly found in Middle East, North Africa, Indian subcontinent, Central Asia, Indonesia, and Malaysia. It covers about 30% of the world population. It also controls 70% of the world petroleum economy. That's another reason why Middle East is very important today. 40 years back, nobody was traveling to Middle East. Today it's Abu Dhabi, Qatar, all the Middle East fiefdoms and small kingdoms. They have become very economically very important because of the petroleum economy, the energy of which runs the world. 70% of it is controlled by them. Okay. The third knowledge system is the Indian knowledge system, predominantly found in the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, Tibet, Japan, covers about 25% of the world population, and it now has about 25% of the world economy with them, and that's growing. Okay. The fourth knowledge system we need to look at is the indigenous knowledge system, IDKs, exists in all parts of the world in isolation, more so in India, Africa, and South America. They cover only 5% of the world population, but this indigenous knowledge system is what has led to all the present Western, Arabic, and Indian knowledge system. Okay. Now we need to know that no society now lives exclusively on one knowledge system except the indigenous knowledge system. Many live with a blended version of 2, 3, or 4. For example, majority of us, we have an Indian knowledge system within our house, our dress habits, our family structure, our social and religious expressions. But when we go to our office or the IT company or our workplace or the university and colleges, we tend to follow Western knowledge system. We study quantum mechanics, we study Greek philosophy, we are doing computer programming, we handle electricity, etc., etc. Okay. Whereas a Muslim in India would probably do a blended version of 3. An Arabic knowledge system within the house, within their friends and their religious expressions, a Indian knowledge system in public, and a Western knowledge system for their economic and job opportunity. This is typically what it is. Some may even do 4. Being in an alien land, you may have to do a synthesis, personal synthesis. That's one reason why it's difficult for people to adjust to a different culture, because they have to blend it very carefully without losing their value and without losing the economic or the social opportunity. So many of us live with a blended version, and I'll also come to this who live in complete isolation. Okay. So what are we focusing on? We are focusing on the following, that we all need a blended knowledge system dominated by IKS, which is approximately 16 hours out of 24 is Indian knowledge system, and about 8 hours out of 24 is Western knowledge system, particularly Monday to Friday. Okay. The formal education economy and industry is dominated by Western knowledge system, whereas our socio-political, religious, cultural issues are dominated by IKS. It is here we are questioning what IKS is and attempting to put more IKS into our existing lifestyle, as it is clear that we are now facing more negative issues with overload of Western knowledge system. For example, every student in your college and all, they fancy pizza. Pizza has come as a new thing, even though I had tasted it 40 years back when I went to US. But not many realize pizza is one of the world's worst food. Unhealthy, causes much more problems in the long run. But there's what? A large number of Western knowledge system components have a lot of visibility initially. The same is happening today with the healthcare. Today, India is on the verge of the biggest crisis, more bigger problem than COVID, because India is the world's largest population, slowly emerging with AMR, antimicrobial resistance. Okay? That's because we have indiscriminately used antibiotics, which is predominantly a Western creation, Western knowledge. Okay. So, what is interesting is to first know what IKS is and see whether components of IKS can be increased, because we do have problems of sustainability. I don't know about, of course, I've lived everywhere in India, but let me tell you one thing. The world's best breakfast is idli and dosa, because the best way to start the day is start with partially steamed food made out of millets or grains, which are also fermented. This is the best healthy food to begin with. Nothing to beat this. Okay. So we do have a lot of amazing, useful, and proven excellence, which we seem to have neglected. Similarly, for all of you who are wearing clothes, it is expensive, difficult to maintain these days, but I don't think there are any clothes superior to cotton clothes for the type of climate and weather patterns that we experience. That's the reason why there are hundreds of skin specialists in all the cities now, because in a hot tropical climate where we sweat a lot, a large number of Indians have started using synthetic clothes. What synthetic clothes does is, it does not absorb the sweat. When the sweat is not absorbed and aerated out, dirt starts accumulating in the skin pores, causing tremendous amount of skin problem. That's why India is one of the world's largest skin problem, because we have neglected the very important aspect of allowing sweating to aerate out. We have blocked the sweat with synthetic. Even worse, in Chennai, Madras, Chennai, Mumbai, Calcutta, very hot, humid climate, all your university teachers and professors wear suit and tie. This is the most disgusting, which simply means teachers don't have common sense. There is no reason why students should not respect them. The worst dress is woolen clothes in hot summer in India. You'll see that people who are coming with MBA and all that, this is what it is. Okay. So we are having serious problem which we have created ourselves simply by imitating and trying to look very fancy. So that's one thing that we need to look at. What is good with us? Can we retain it? Because of all the knowledge system in the world, Indian knowledge system is the most sustainable. I'll come to that, okay? The dream is to leave a significant component of Indian knowledge systems only. The question is it possible? Is it meaningful? Or is it productive? For example, with Indian knowledge system, you can never make a mobile phone. With Indian knowledge system, you cannot make an internet. What do you do? Do you want to go back to bullock carts? Do you want to go back to pigeon mail? These are your choices, okay? So understanding each knowledge system, what it does, what it can do, whether it is sustainable or not, what is good in the long run, what is good in the short run. All this has to be evaluated before you make a choice. We are not making choices because we are not even investigating what is what, why it is like that, how it is like that, whether it is good for us or not. We are simply mimicking and copying. So what is this Western knowledge system, which is also partly the Arabic knowledge system? This is something that's evolved over 3,000 years. So it's not a overnight phenomena. It evolved in the socio-cultural geography of Rome, Middle East, Greece, what one calls the Fertile Crescent. Geographically, it's called the Fertile Crescent. I'll come to that. All factors have played significant role in shaping that. What is common is, there is one book that is sacred. They are all monotheists, which does not include female and child gods. So the gender skewness in terms of value and representation is already there. For example, in the classical Sharia court, woman's opinion or voice or value is exactly half of a man. So actually 3 women have to testify before a man is convicted. That's the kind of inequality that's built into the tenets, okay? Its main character is belief in redemption at death. The moral compass grounded in belief in only one God, which is male, and each of them have only one book. They are all called Abrahamic. Jews have one book, Christians have one book, Muslims have one book. It has been institutionalized very early. For example, Vatican, which is the head of the Christian worldview, is about 2000 years. Single institutional authority, rebelling or questioning is not permitted and results in excommunication or death. This is exactly how Jesus was crucified. Because Jesus started questioning what is happening in the temple at Jerusalem. In fact, he made a classical statement. He said, the temple of Jerusalem is a den of thieves. So this is the reason why he was finally crucified. And because of his crucifixion, Christianity emerged, right? So tenets in all these are very harsh, cruel, and very acquiring in nature, all the time trying to grab from others. Nothing like sharing. For example, clearly it says no heaven for non-followers, eye for an eye, which has come from Hammurabi Code, death to kafirs, death to non-believers. So this is the kind of strong tenets on which the system has built itself. You see here, very interesting, as recent as 800 BCE, okay, just before Alexander's time in India. In North Africa, you had a very interesting kingdom called Carthage, which is in North Africa. And it was then the richest city-state in the world. And then this is the Carthage image, which is, some of it is partly visible even today. Which is close to what is Tunisia today. And they had a female goddess called Tanit, okay, up to around 3rd century BC. Carthage was sacked, burned down, and eventually the whole of North Africa and southern Mediterranean all turned into Roman subsidiaries, okay. This is what is. The whole of Western knowledge system and the Arabic knowledge system originated here. This is what is called the Fertile Crescent. Just the Euphrates and Tigris river valley, whereas here the entire region is desert. This is desert. Little here, which is, the Red Sea or Alexandria, little over that, but otherwise this area. And all this part is Old Testament. This is New Testament. And this part is the Arabic knowledge system, okay. Further south is Mecca and Medina, okay. So this is the type of terrain and territory in which these grew. Not surprising, with so much of desert, very little trees, very little river, very little water, people all the time fighting for water and food and other things. You develop a very harsh system, okay. So what is Indian knowledge system? This is also something that's evolved, but only difference is it has evolved over 5,000 years. So better time tested in the socio-cultural geography that is called Bharat or Indian. Here also all factors have played significant role. However, there is no one book that is sacred. We are all polytheists, including female and child gods. That's why highly non-individualist. This has been one of the big factors which has allowed us to survive this many 5,000 years compared to anybody who has at most a 3,000-year history. Its main character is belief in rebirth, which the Abrahamics don't have. And the moral compass grounded in two terms called dharma and karma. Okay. Even more interesting, it has either not been institutionalized or has multiple institutions along different philosophies, multiple parallel authority. Therefore, each individual can suit which one is better for him or her, or they can move to some other system, or they can disown everything. Even atheists are part of this system. You don't have to believe in a God, okay? Rebelling or questioning of tenets is permitted and very frequent. One of the reasons why we have so many multiple parallel authorities. Ah, ah. Because we can rebel and question very frequently, so many changes have happened. And the tenets in these are very gentle, bountiful, and giving in nature, sharing all the time. That's why everybody wanted to come here, either as traders or as conquerors or as even worse. I'll come to that. So this is the background. This is the type of terrain which shaped our thoughts and actions and culture and whatever you call. This is an interesting place. It's one of the last villages before Mount Everest. Okay? Uh, so this kind of environment, you can never get angry. You can never feel hostile to others. You don't. You just want to be peaceful and allow others to be peaceful. But whether allow others have been peaceful is a question that we need to look at. But I'll come to that later. So, given all these factors, what is it that we can infer or talk or do? ಮುಂದೆ ಬಾಗ್ಲ ಹಾಕೊಂಬಿಡು ಶೋಭಾ ಬೇಡ ಮೇಲ್ better. So, how to understand whether it was really good or bad? One way to understand whether it was really good or bad is to see how it looked 2000 years back. That's about the time that all these changes started happening. So we'll see how India was about 2000 years back. And for many of you, this is probably the first time that what you are going to see now is perhaps for the first time many of you are seeing in your life. And not only this is 2000 years old, this situation started 3.5 to 4,000 years back. So what I'm showing you is a mature situation. It's centered around two things. Lot of natural resources, which we had, we still have. And more interesting, products made out of natural resources, which was the work of skill and industry. We were the richest nation in the world till 16th century. We became poor, started becoming poor because Britishers converted our industrial society to agricultural society. And in agricultural society, you can never get rich. You can be self-sufficient, have 2 square meals a day for everybody, not beyond that. Okay. So while this trade and interaction happened, it led to mixing of culture, language, knowledge, more than mixing, transfer of knowledge, translation of knowledge, misrepresentation of knowledge, and in many cases, stealing the knowledge also. I'll come to that. So this is it. You see how India was 2000 years back. This is 2nd century. This is a Greek document called Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. This was called Erythraean Sea. So this is a document which says people in Eastern Africa, Southern Arabia, Central Asia, Greek, and Rome, they were all trading with people in India across the West Coast And you see how many places they were trading. For those of you who are in Maharashtra, you will see a place called Sopara. Sopara is the today's railway station in Western Railway, Nalla Sopara. Then there is Kalyan, which is another railway station. Kalyan was trading. So every 50 kilometers, West Asians were trading with people in India. So many trading posts. Every 50, 60 kilometers, you had a port where people would take local resources or products and interact. And there were also people in the East Coast. For example, there is a place called Korkai. Korkai is today's Tuticorin. Then you have this Padua, which is Puducherry today. Then Arakimedu. Then you have Kaveripatnam. Then you have Sopatira, which is basically your Machilipatnam, close to Machilipatnam today. They were also trading with the East. So, lot of steel, fabric, spices, ivory, so many things. See, but what is this? This is 2000 years before this, when initial trade started with what is today known as the Indus civilization. This is the early trading where there were no ships from here to here directly. But they were taking small boats and traveling like this, which is called hugging the coast. They didn't want to lose themselves in high seas. So they would travel like this, close to the coast, hugging the coast. And so this is 4,000 years back. People started trading from here to the Indus civilization. Indus civilization, because of this richness, rest of India also became rich down the line, or it was already rich even though they were not trading. So 4,000 years back, India looked like this, and we have a proof of why it was like this. If you see this, you see what they were bringing was wine and gold. The only two things that they were bringing is wine and gold. What they were taking back? Spices, ivory, metals, cloth, aromatic flower, silk, and precious stones. To all the kingdoms here, all the way up to what is today Madagascar. Little of this is the silk trade, what went to China, Silk Route. But the main route is this sea route here. This is the reason why the British colonization, this is the document, Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. It is a Greek document dating to 1st century AD. Written in Greek, but it's a Roman document. This is how it was coming. From April to September, you had winds coming this side, what is called your southwest monsoon. And November to February, it will go like here. This is the northeast retreating monsoon. So with favorable wind, they would come here, trade, wait for 3 months during monsoon, fill the ships, take it back. And not only they were trading with India, West Coast predominantly, but all these people in Southeast Asia, China, would come and exchange goods here. That's why what is today Kerala was the most globalized society in the world. Unbelievable. You had people from 50 different regions and languages here in Kerala. What is today Kerala? There was no Kerala then. That was Tamil Nadu. There was no Malayalam language. That was all Tamil. So this is how India was 2000 years back. And there is proof. See here. This is the Indus Valley. This is the Achaemenid Empire of Darius and Xerxes and all that, stretching from Greece, northern Africa, which is mainly Egypt, what is today, whole of Central, Southeast, Western Asia, Afghanistan, bordering up to Indus Valley. But what is interesting is this is the document according to Herodotus, who is a Greek or Roman historian. And the size of this thing indicates how much wealth each region was providing to the Achaemenid Empire. See, they had a small portion of the Indus Valley. They didn't cross the river Indus. Jhelum was the border. Rest of India was untouched. But of all the revenue from all their provinces, the small portion provided significant revenue, showing how rich they were. Okay? Even more interesting for some of you who probably will see this for the first time in your life, this is a image documented showing interesting. This is the Roman Empire at its peak. Roman Empire is here. This is Italy. This is Roman Empire. They had Carthage, all that. They also had occupied Egypt. You know the story of Cleopatra. And this is where Romans eventually helped a section of the Jews to crucify Jesus. Okay, Jerusalem is here. And this is all the Roman Empire. What you see in gold colors is all the places in the world in the last 400-500 years, wherever they have discovered a Roman gold coin. See, all these places they have discovered Roman gold coin. Nothing surprising, all these places were ruled by Romans. Therefore, you had Roman gold coins. People would lose money in the soil or when they hoard it or they hide it. But what is interesting is, why are there so many Roman gold coins here in Sri Lanka, near Kaveri, near Machilipatnam and other places? Lot of it on the west coast. Why are there so many Roman gold coins here? That is because of this. All the trade would happen bringing gold, taking back goods. So India had tremendous amount of gold coming. And we were really rich. Now the question is, are these knowledge systems foolproof? Are there no justifications for corrections or changes? While many knowledge systems claim an element of sacredness, infallibility, God's command. If you say something, no, God has told. Who told you that God has told? They told my grandfather. Who told your grandfather? Oh, his great grandfather was told. So this is the way things go. Practice over the years has shown that all knowledge systems are inadequate for various reasons. Changing context makes it harder to adhere to. Many tenets are never tested, and when done so, questioned, fails or found inadequate. Only hope is self-correction, adaptation, change, or reforms. If all these don't work, you have to abandon that knowledge system. That's all. So you need self-correction measure. You will get this. You will see this. You see what happens in knowledge systems. Some dramatic conflict in knowledge systems. I'll come to that. Case of Galileo Galilei. All of you know Galileo is the father of modern science and technology, the father of Renaissance period, who influenced Newton and everybody. So he wrote a book in 1632 called Dialogue Concerning Two Chief World Systems. One as declared by the Bible, authorized and endorsed by Vatican, for whom the Pope was the head. The second view was his view because of his observations in telescope. Because of that, he told, sun is not revolving around earth. Earth is revolving around sun. This is called heliocentric view. He said, from my observations, earth revolves around sun and not the other way around. Immediately he was termed anti-Christian because Bible says sun revolves around the earth. He was put to death actually, and lucky he was so popular, they put him under house arrest from 1632 till he died in 1642. He was under house arrest because he opposed the Bible view. Same thing happened when Big Bang theory came about. There was another Vatican seminar on November 22nd, which involved Stephen Hawking also. And Pope asked how the solar system and universe was formed. because the Bible says universe was formed by God. Okay. So this is the way it is. You have to be very careful that every knowledge system can be very rigid and very subjective, depending on who says. Conflicts and contradictions in every knowledge system is very common. The greatness of a knowledge system is not that it doesn't have conflict or contradiction, but the way it handles its conflict and contradiction. That is the greatness of a knowledge system. See here, this is the interesting painting of Galileo trying to against charges of blasphemy. This is the Vatican order, and he's trying to defend himself. Okay. And very similar things happen everywhere. It may happen even in your college or your university. You see here today, this happened just about 6 months back. And many of you can recognize him. This fellow is Magnus Carlsen, the world's greatest chess player ever. And he was sent out of a chess tournament because he was wearing jeans and jacket. The rule there to play chess tournament is to wear suit, woolen suit. You can't wear jeans and t-shirt. See, it's a world's greatest player. He's sent out because of a rule in the knowledge system which says you must wear suit. This is how it has happened. All knowledge systems are like this. You have to be very, very cautious. Excellence is always sacrificed for order. So what does knowledge system do? Knowledge systems gives you a cultural identity. It gives you an individual identity. It gives you tremendous economic value, and it consolidates wisdom over years out of practice, out of mistakes done, out of contradiction, everything. Specifically, what does Indian knowledge system do? It builds itself on core and related dharmas. Dharma as a housekeeper, dharma as a householder, dharma as a teacher, etc., as a student, as a vice chancellor, everything, as a politician, whatever, even though they don't follow, that's a different issue. It builds itself a lot on oral and written traditions. I'll come to the written traditions later because we had oral traditions for little over 2,500 years. Writing started about 2000, maximum 2,500 years back, writing started. Other civilizations started writing about 1,000 years before that. The earliest writing perhaps is around 4,000 years old. Before that, everybody was busy talking to each other. Okay. We were the last people to start writing. We were very late in writing, even though we had advanced a lot in speaking. Okay. It also gives a tremendous amount of utilitarian and welfare aspects when we follow a knowledge system. For example, we have a festival. When we have a festival, people who grow flowers, they also have a role in it. They grow flowers. They make a living out of that. What do we do with the flowers? We put it on the clay god or whatever. And after it gets dry, we throw it out. Why are we throwing out a product within 2 or 3 days and buying fresh flowers? Because the man who grows flowers also must make a living. Everybody has to make a living. So you have to provide opportunities of all kinds so that everybody with diversity can live. And that diversity is formed in variety of cultures. We are the most cultured nation on earth, meaning Indian subcontinent has more culture than the rest of the world. Maybe only challenging then, not now, is the African culture. If you go to Northeast, every district is a unique culture. If you come to South India, every 50 kilometers, the culture changes. 50 to 100 kilometers, the language dialect changes, the dress pattern changes, certain food habits change, certain values change, all that happens, okay? This is how the Indian knowledge system survives or builds itself, okay? All these knowledge systems are unsustainable. That's why we have a serious climate problem and other things. Of all the knowledge systems, only the indigenous knowledge system is sustainable. The most unsustainable is the Western knowledge system. And among the three dominant knowledge systems, the most sustainable knowledge system is the Indian knowledge system, at least the original Indian knowledge system, not the blended one. But here you see, this is an indigenous knowledge system where you have housing for 100 people. They live in a small forest patch. The forest is intact. You can see there are no doors, no personal space, common space for all adults and children. And whenever the population becomes 130 or 140, 30 or 40 people will move out about 2 miles away from here, make a small clearing in the forest, continue to live. They don't destroy the flora and fauna. They don't destroy the climate. They don't disturb anything. Sustainable. Okay. Are there other sustainable things? Yes. Even in India, I don't know how many of you have been to Andamans. This is one Sentinel Island, North Sentinel Island, where people live even today with bows and arrows. I have been there. I have seen many of these people. Very sustainable. We are the ones who cause problems to them. They don't cause problems to others. And they have very good knowledge. This is a person who is focusing a bow at a helicopter which went there after the tsunami. In tsunami, thousands of people died in India, but not a single person died in Andaman, which was closer to tsunami, because they had better knowledge about tsunami than our professors. Their tsunami means whenever water recedes, the rule is whenever the water recedes, which is what happens in a tsunami first, it recedes and then develops a huge wave. Whenever it recedes, which is unnatural behavior, people are told to go in the opposite direction, climb a tree and wait. This is the knowledge they have. So all these people climbed a tree and waited for approximately 36 to 48 hours for the tsunami to come down. Nobody died. Whereas here in east coast of India, all this near Puducherry and all that, hundreds and thousands of people died. And they are all 21st century college educated people. So don't think
ನಿಮ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಂದಿರೋ ಹೌದು ನನಗೆ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ
no back talk. See, you're all teachers, no back channel talking. I'll give you time for talking. Sustainably implies indigenous knowledge. And you see here, so many indigenous population in Andamans. Africa was like this. Before the Islamic conquest and before the European colonization, Africa was like this. Typically around 50 different cultures lived with 50 different languages. Today it's like this, almost vertically divided, southern half Christian, northern half Islam, and here fighting with each other. Nigeria, the famous Boko Haram and all that, even here, right? So one of the reasons these things are included is in NEP. NEP wants us to learn IKS because IKS has a lot of interesting things which we have overlooked. There are problems of IKS. One is who gives a job if somebody studies IKS? How many students are willing to take IKS courses? It may increase the burden of additional courses. And there's an acute shortage of well-trained faculty in IKS. In fact, there is acute shortage of well-trained faculty in any discipline now. Okay. These are the standard books prescribed depending on whether you're from a science background, a arts background, architecture background, history, economics, political science, whatever. I'll come to these are standard books and many are written just because UGC has allowed prescribing this. In small conclusion, we can say it's very useful. But what we are being challenged is not just that. Our younger generation have four things: fast food, internet, jeans, and t-shirt. These four components are some of the most comfortable and convenient for them. If you want to do anything serious, you have to overcome all this. And it's very difficult to overcome all this. Okay. Particularly modern maths, technology, and life sciences, particularly pharmacy, today is completely dominated by Western science. I'm sure all of you have taken Dolo, aspirin, paracetamol frequently. The question is how, where, when, and how much of IKS to be positioned in our life. We will see this in part 2, which I will get now. Okay. So that is this. Why is IKS surviving? IKS is surviving because lot of IKS has built itself on indigenous knowledge over centuries. For example, particularly when we became agriculturists, only agricultural economy started doing settling, created villages, created towns. Because you had villages and town, you wanted people to govern. Because you wanted people to govern, you needed a king, all this, okay? That's called urbanization. The first urbanization happened around 3,500 to 4,000 years back, okay? For example, you look at Varanasi today, particularly the Kashi. Kashi has been a town for the last 4,000 years. Same is Damascus. Damascus in Syria is a town for over 3,500 years, continuously inhabited. Rome has been continuously inhabited for 2,500 years. Bombay, Calcutta, and all very recent. Okay, Bangalore and all. Okay. The churn in the knowledge systems was strongly driven by institutionalized religions, culminating in colonial era where WKS has emerged. So because of the British rule, we have a dominance of Western knowledge system now. Okay. The Western knowledge system was greatly aided by science and technology of the kind that emerged post-Renaissance period. Post-Renaissance is after 16th century. Till then, there was nothing like Western knowledge system. So we'll see why knowledge systems thrive or are popular. Okay. Basically, excellence. If you have excellence in a knowledge system, you are going to accept. Similarly, if you are an excellent teacher, even if you have other aberrations, people will tolerate. Okay. Comfort and quality of life. What is comfortable and how much quality it adds to your life? That part of the knowledge system is the most important for people. It's quite common to see cases of imposed knowledge system which has neither comfort nor quality of life. We have seen this in ISIS, Taliban, Boko Haram, North Korea, Golden Triangle, what happened in Syria recently. All these are not, uncomfortable knowledge systems imposed with violence. Okay. So the question to ask is, will any knowledge system finally bring peace, prosperity, and happiness to all? That is the original goal of knowledge system. Okay. Peace, prosperity, and happiness to all who live by it and all those who may not subscribe to it. I may not believe in Indian knowledge system. Because of that, I must not be uncomfortable. This is what is happening everywhere. If you don't agree to a knowledge system, you are either killed, banished, or much worse, what we saw in ISIS, they captured people, ladies, sold them. 21st century, they were people selling other men and women. Okay. Each of these, so this is broadly achieved by the excellence the knowledge system has, the utility of the knowledge system, the justice of knowledge system, the equity, quality, and equality. Each of this is a long seminar. We don't have time. We will only look at excellence of a knowledge system, particularly excellence of IKS, which is what we are focusing on. I will now stop here. We have time till 3:15 for any questions up to this. And after At 3:45, I will continue. Do you have any questions? Please feel free to unmute